By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to a brand new episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are in Arvika, Sweden to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Arvika Festival. And I'm going to show you matches all the way from the Swiss rounds to the finals. And today we're actually going to look at a round 2 match. And that is a match between Markus. Markus is also one of the organizers of the Arvika Festival. Markus, thank you so much for inviting me. And of course, a big thank you to the entire crew for inviting me over. And you're playing a deck called Rekon Trisk. And it's really interesting. He's playing with cards like Wall of Swords. It's a really cool deck, but more about that in the deck tech section of this video. And he's taking on Ölle, and Ölle is playing a Reanimator deck. And I love his deck. His deck is WUBRG, all colors, and it's Reanimator. So with Bazaar of Baghdad, All Hallows Eve, and a lot of big creatures. Now, before I start with the deck tech section of this video, first a message from our sponsor, 3for1 Trading. 3for1 Trading is one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. Their online shop has a fantastic selection of high-end Magic cards, especially for vintage, legacy, and yes, also old school Magic players. But 3for1 Trading does more. They're now also buying all Magic the Gathering singles and entire collections, big and small. They're one of the top trading card game traders in Europe, buying way over 1 million Magic cards a year, and they are more than happy to make you an offer for your cards today. So, if you have any cards for sale, 3for1 Trading is the place to go. Visit 3for1.gg/selltimmy to get your offer. Okay, we are back and ready to dive into the deck techs. I'm going to start with the deck of the player on the left, that is Markus. Let's take a look at his Rekon Trisk deck. And here we see the deck of Markus, so it's called Rekon Trisk. And when I heard the name like Triskelion in the title, I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be a robots deck because he's also playing with blue, so it's going to be Suchi, Triskelion, and then of course just having all the copy artifacts. So that whole deck was already in my mind, and then I saw a deck photo. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. There are some parts missing here. We don't see a playset of Suchis. We only see 3 Triskelions, not 4. So this is more like a toolbox deck, I guess you could say, right? Because he is playing with, for example, the Transmute artifact, which helps you to find like the artifacts you want, like in a toolbox. He's also playing with 2 reconstructions, which I think is really cool. Look at that reconstruction, by the way, that factory cut reconstruction there, or non-factory cut. You tell me, Markus, in the comments. But anyway, it's a wrongly cut reconstruction. And he's playing with 2, I assume, when I'm looking at the deck picture there. Pretty cool, pretty well done. We see a lot of cool altars in this deck, by the way. And yeah, when I'm just trying to analyze what he wants to do, it's all a bit odd, but I love odd because odd means you're trying to do something else, and I'm a big fan of that. You've added white, for example, but you're not playing with Disenchants or Swords. No, you've added white to play with Wall of Swords, which I think is really cool. It's a cool card. You're also playing with Azure Drake over, for example, a Surrender Befried or a Ghost Ship. And I mean, I guess when you're playing with Wall of Swords and Azure Drake, 2 creatures with a relatively high toughness, it's kind of showing that you more want to use them as blockers, right, to control. You're also playing with 2 mazes main. So you want to kind of control the board and find the right moment to perhaps play out your 1 Mirror Universe, switch life totals, maybe kill the opponent with Triskelion damage. I mean, I'm kind of guessing here because is there really a straightforward game plan? I mean, he's also playing with 4 Psionic Blasts, so that alone is 16 direct damage. So he doesn't necessarily need the Mirror Universe, but his deck, of course, is a tad bit slow, and he doesn't have a Swords, right? So if you cannot counter away the early threats, which could be a problem, then your life total can get under pressure, so then you're really low, and then maybe you want to use your Transmute artifact to, you know, find your Mirror Universe, swap life totals, and finish the game with a Psionic Blast, or maybe with a Triskelion. Those could be options. One of the things I do like about this deck is that he is playing with Triskelion and Sage of Letnam, right? You can empty your Trike, sack it to the Sage, draw a card for it, then actually use the Reconstruction to get your Trike back. That way you're kind of, refreshing your Triskelion. So that's kind of a neat little way. What I also like here is that he's playing with 4 Felwar Stones in combination with the Sage, because usually late game you have more than enough mana, and then you can trade in those Felwar Stones, those mana rocks, for extra cards, which is usually a really good trade. So yeah, it looks like an interesting deck. I'm not quite sure what the full idea of the deck is, if I've analyzed it correctly, Marcus. So maybe let me know in the comments below when you're watching this video. But like I said, I do love the fact that you're trying out something new and that you haven't included the obvious things. For example, you've chosen to play a clone over a copy artifact. So I think that's pretty cool, because your gut instinct here would say, you know, always choose copy here over clone. But then again, you know, clone could also be useful to clone something of your opponent. With clone, you can copy a Sage, or you can copy a Wall of Swords if need be. So, I mean, clone also gives you options, but it's just, you know, that much more expensive to cast. Anyway, this is the deck of Marcus. Now let's take a look at the deck of your opponent, Ölle. And here we see the deck of Ölle, and maybe it's Ölle, so I apologize beforehand, you know, for my pronunciation of these Scandinavian names. They're probably horrible, so I'm sorry. But Ölle, what you want to do, you're playing Reanimator, right? And when you play Reanimator in old school, you know, maybe it's good to first look at, you know, what are your weapons of choice? What can you actually do when you play Reanimator old school? Well, the first card is, of course, Bazaar of Baghdad. This whole deck starts with this card. It's a land from Arabian Nights. You can tap it to draw 2 cards, then you discard 3 cards. Now, the funny history of this card is that when it came out, nobody wanted this card. Nobody wanted to play with it because you had to discard 3 cards and you would only draw 2 in return. People didn't really see the value. This whole idea of playing out of your graveyard didn't really exist yet. And of course, now we know that this card is extremely powerful. And in old school, you can actually combine this card really well with this card, All Hallows Eve, a sorcery from Legends that say exile All Hallows Eve with 2 scream counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if this card is exiled with a scream counter on it, remove a scream counter from it. If there are no more counters on it, put it into your graveyard, and each player returns all creature cards from their graveyard to the battlefield. So it is a cool way. So first, of course, part of the plan is use your Bazaar of Baghdad to get really big creatures into your graveyard. And we see a lot of big creatures in here. Mahamoti Jinn, Nikobola, Shivan Dragon, Triskelion. So you want to get as many of those into your graveyard. Then time your All Hallows Eve right, and then you get all these big creatures back, and your opponent probably doesn't have a lot of big creatures in the bin, and then you win the game, right? It sounds really simple. It's really hard to do, though. And then we also have 4 Animate Deaths in this deck, so he can also use Bazaar of Baghdad in combination with Animate Death. That's another way to use this card. And then he's got a pretty cool trick, because he's playing with Concordant Crossroads, and Concordant Crossroads gives all creatures haste, also the creatures of your opponent, so it can be a little tricky. And I know from my own experience that I've cast Concordant Crossroads too quickly without thinking about it, and that came back to bite me in the ass, because now my opponent could also play very aggressively. But in this deck, it is really a thing of beauty, because I think what Ölle wants to do, and actually I know because I talked with him about this deck, because I really love this deck, is, you know, you play Concordant Crossroads and Nikobolas, and then in the same turn, you can take out the entire hand of your opponent. So it's really that combination that he's going for. Nikobolas, in case you don't know or can't remember, it's a 7/7 from Legends. Look at him here. What a bad boy. And you got to pay a blue, a black, and a red during your upkeep, or else you lose the bolas. It's sacrificed. But if you do, it sticks around, and then you can attack. And whenever Nikobolas deals damage to an opponent, and here comes the power, that player discards their hand. So they just lose their entire hand. So if you time it right with your Concordant Crossroads, you can just take out the entire hand. I mean, this deck just looks so much fun to play. And then he's done something that's even cooler. He's made a transformational sideboard, and that basically means that after sideboarding, you play a different deck. Now, the deck that he's playing after sideboarding is he plays a Eureka deck. So it's still a big creature deck, but then instead of being reliant of All Hallows Eve and Bazaar of Baghdad, you start playing with your Eurekas. And Eureka, of course, is a sorcery for 2 green and 2 that allows you to play out all your, your permanents. So Eureka works great with the creatures in here. And what I like about that is that when people have seen your Reanimator plan, they're probably going to try to board in cards to, like Torment Script, to take care of your graveyard. And you don't have to worry about Torment Script anymore when you're going for your Eureka plan. So it's pretty cool, you know, how that works. I mean, we have to now find out if that actually works. You know, does it work? Anyway, we're going to find out. Let's go to the match. Game number 1, here we go. So we've got Markus on the left. So he's playing a dominantly blue deck called Trisk, or Rekon Trisk. And he's taking on Ölle, and Ölle is playing a Reanimator deck. And we see Ölle here playing a Bazaar of Baghdad, using it straight away. He's going to put some cards there in the graveyard. Unfortunately, they're a little bit out of sight. That's unfortunate, because it's pretty relevant what he puts in the graveyard. But we'll try to check it out for you. There's a Mox Ruby here hitting the board. Also for Ölle, passing the turn. So pretty good opening for him, I guess. There we see a Manifold by Markus and a pass. And Ölle here taking on turn 2. And there's an Anime Dead, so let's see what he's got in the graveyard. There's a Triskelion, so Triskelion here hitting the board. A 1/1 creature that comes into play with 3+1/+1 counters, so it's a 4/4, and you can take those counters off to deal 1 damage to any target. Markus here just playing an island, passing the turn. So bad news for Markus here, because there's early pressure from Ölle, and I'm expecting him to swing in for 4. That's exactly what he does, and of course it's a 3/4, by the way, because Anime Dead gives the creature -1/-0. So Markus here dropping to 17. And let's see what Ölle is going to do here in his second main. He's going to tap 2, or we're going to see another Anime Dead. Yep, another Anime Dead, and oh, look at that, Nico Bolas in the bin, and he's got the mana actually to pay for the upkeep cost of this creature. This is a big problem for Markus. Needs to counter, and if he can't, it's a big problem. If he takes damage here from the Bolas, he's going to lose his entire hand. He does have a Mirror Universe there in hand, I believe. So he could go land, tap the Vault, and all the mana to cast the Mirror Universe. You know, that would be a problem for Ölle, I guess. So he has to make a decision here what he's going to do, tapping out. And yep, there's the Mirror Universe. Makes sense. And I think if you're Ölle, I would probably just attack here with Nico Bolas, take the hand of Markus, you know, and then next turn let him decide if he wants to swap life totals. He, of course, is paying the upkeep cost first for the Nico Bolas. There we see a Bayou hitting the board. What else can he do here? This is a moment for him to think. I mean, if he attacks with everything, he deals 10 damage. Markus would drop to 7. But again, remember, he's got that Mirror Universe. So he's going to switch life totals then next turn. You could also just attack him for 7 with just a Bolas. Put him on 10, taking the cards. Ooh, but maybe he only wants to attack with the Trike. That's also an option, of course. But he is going to go here with the Nico Bolas. I think it's the right thing to do, to be honest. Because then you discard the entire hand of Markus. So yes, he's going to trade lives. You'll be on 10. He is on 20. But Markus has no cards left in hand. And it has to be getting you pretty close to a victory. And of course, Nico Bolas is only 6, not 7 power because of that Anime Dead. I keep forgetting it. But here we see Markus dropping, losing his entire hand. Going to take another damage to drop to 10. And I guess he's going to change his life totals after that. Maybe there's a discussion now when you lose the 1 life from the Mana Vault. And I do believe you lose it during your draw step. So that would mean he would stay on 11, change lives, go up to 20, take the damage from the Vault, go to 19. Both players looking at the card right now. Deciding it sticks to 10 though. And it could be right as well. I always find it quite confusing, you know, when that whole, you know, Mana Vault damage, when that takes place. Anyway, if both players agree, then that's what's going to happen here. So Markus on 20, Ölle on 10. He's going to draw a card for turn, pass. Yeah, he's in a really bad place still. And untap, upkeep here. And of course, Ölle here paying the cost for the Nico Bolas to keep it around. And it's looking so good for Ölle here in the first game. He can now swing in for 9 points of damage. Put Markus on 11. And of course, take care of that 1 card in hand for Markus. There's the attack here for 9. Yeah, Markus dropping here to 11, I assume. And he's going to lose that single card in hand. He's in a really tough position. I mean, what could help him here, but then he would also need white mana. I do believe he's playing with a single balance in the deck, so losing a card again, we can't really see what that is, unfortunately, but I believe it's a counter spell. And now we see Ölle using his Bazaar of Baghdad, so he's going to discard 3 more cards. There we go. And passes the turn. One of those cards seems to be a Bazaar of Baghdad, and here we see Markus dropping to 10 from his own vault. There's a pass, and that's a game here. So Ölle winning his first game very convincing, and now both players are going to dive into their sideboards, and we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2, here we go. Markus on the play after losing that first one. Now let's see what he can do in turn 1. There is a mana vault and a pass. Let's see what Ölle can do. Starting here with City of Brass, and that's a Mox Ruby into a Sylvan. Yeah, this is a really good start for Markus. So Sylvan, the enchantment from Legends that allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. And if you want, you can draw an extra card for 4 life. And here we see Ölle using the Sylvan. Then the question is always, are you going to pay? Are you going to take 4 or not? Looking at the top 3 cards, looking at the hand. Choosing to just take the 1. There we see an Underground Sea. It's going to tap the City of Brass. There's a Birds of Paradise. It's going to take a damage drop to 18. And yep, there's a Time Walk. Wow, what a start here for Ölle. Bad news for Markus though. Very strong start for Ölle, taking the initiative here after that Time Walk. And we're probably not going to see a counterspell because I don't believe that Markus is playing with power sinks. And he doesn't have 2 blue there to cast that counterspell in hand, unfortunately for Markus. So let's see what Ölle can do with this turn. And I mean, thinking about his deck, I think 6 is kind of the sweet spot mana-wise. You know, for his deck, he's playing with 4 Trikes, 2 Mahamotis, 4 Shivans. So 6 mana would be really sweet for him. Could go up to 5, unless he also finds a Mox, of course, then he can go further. And I believe that Markus thinks that he missed damage here from his City of Brass. I don't think you did. I think 18 is correct. Dropping a Bayou here. Yeah, and 5, exactly counting, it's 5. And like I said, I think he needs 6, exactly passing the turn. So giving Markus a little bit of time. And if Markus can find another blue here, that's unfortunate. It's a Plains though. If it would have been a blue, then at least it would have had that counter magic open. And then Ölle would probably, you know, it's most likely going to tap out here, play a Mahamoti or a Shivan or whatever, and you can just tap your 2 blue, counter it away. But that's not the case here for Markus, not finding a second blue. Here we see a Badlands for Ölle. Let's see if he actually is going to play out a big creature. Tapping everything here, exactly. Tapping 6, drop to 17. Shivan Dragon. The 5/5 poster boy of old school Magic. 5/5 flyer, play a red +1/+0. So that's a problem here for Markus. Does have a second blue now in hand, it seems. And I don't believe Markus is playing with Control Magic. Perhaps in the sideboard, but I don't think he is. Control Magic is a great card, of course, against decks like the one that Ölle is playing. Okay, there's a Maze. I mean, that takes care of the Shivan. I would be tempted here if I'm Markus, because I believe he's got a counterspell in hand, to play out that island instead, so you've got counter magic. Yes, it means you'll take a big hit from the Shivan, but at least if Ölle is going to play out another threat, you can counter it away. But we'll see. And he is taking an extra card here, dropping to 13. I'm just expecting to see more big creatures actually from Ölle here. There's the attack first, sending it back with the Mace. Just a pass though. Okay, that's good news here for Markus. Now he can play out the second blue. Exactly, he can keep counter magic open. Counting cards in hand there. Yeah, there we see that counter spell. Tapping 2. There's a Felwar Stone. Passing the turn, so the Felwar Stone can make any color of mana because Ölle there has a City of Brass. That's why I think Felwar Stone is so good in old school Magic, because there's always a City of Brass around, and then your Felwar Stone becomes a Rainbow Stone. What can Ölle do? Tapping 6 again. What are we going to see for 6? There's a Mahamoti, Papa Moti, but I'm expecting a counterspell here, exactly countering away the Moti. Or not, question mark. There's a red Elemental Blast from the sideboard. This is bad news for Markus. Really needed to kill this Papa Moti, or counter this Papa Moti. Another island found from the top here for Markus. But what can he do? I mean, both creatures are so big. It's hard to kill them. And again, I think a Control Magic would be perfect here, but don't believe it's in the deck for Markus. Looks like he wants to tap the Flower Stone. Has a Psychic Purge there in hand, so it's going to deal 1 damage. Oh, is he going to do Psionic Blast Purge? Oh, that is sweet! Now that is flavor, using your psychic powers to take down the Shivan as a true blue mage would. You know, blue mages, of course, use a lot of psychic power. And yeah, this is really cool to see Psychic Purge, a card from Legends. For 1 blue, deals 1 damage to any target. And then if an opponent forces you to discard the card, that opponent takes 5 damage. So it's quite nice in formats with Fallen Empires, because there you have Hymn to Turek, of course. We don't see it as much in Swedish because there is no Fallen Empires in Swedish. And Ölle now taking his turn. And at least for now, Markus seems to be in a better place, right? You can use that mace to send back the Modi. And I wonder what that one card in Markus's hand is, if that's another counterspell. Let's first see what Ölle is going to do. We're looking at the top 3 cards, a little bit in the tank here. Perhaps contemplating about taking an extra card. It is a little bit risky though, because you would go to 8 knowing that you're playing against a player that plays Psionic Blasts. I don't know if I would go that low. And again, Ölle here looking at his hand and looking at the 3 cards from the Sylvan. Trying to make a decision. Putting his cards in hand back. I believe 2 cards in hand for him. And these cards that he's got in hand right now are the cards from the Sylvan. Putting those back, drawing just 1. Again, I think that makes sense. You don't want to go too low. Tapping the C, tapping the Ruby. What card is that? Oh, Demonic Tutor. Okay. Demonic Tutor is extra nice because he's got a Sylvan, right? Because with the Sylvan, he gets to look at 3 new cards next turn. Because with Demonic, you get to shuffle. And I guess the best card to get here, is it the boring answer? I think it is. I think Ancestral Recall is probably the best pick. Could also consider to take Regrowth, get back your Time Walk, you know, but that's not really going to make a big change here. I don't believe Ölle is actually playing with Mind Twist in his deck, because I actually know, because he told me I've got Nico Bolas to do that Mind Twist work, so I don't play with Mind Twist. And there's a pass. Which, of course, I mean, using your Nico Bolas is a way classier way to take care of someone's hand than using a Mind Twist. But anyway, here we see the attack of Ölle. Of course, Markus using his Mesa Viv. And Markus now drawing his card for turn. 2 cards in hand for him. He's going to tap 2. Okay, there we see Chaos Orb. So this is interesting, right? What are you going to flip on? Are you going to take out the Modi? Are you going to take out the Sylvan? Or are you just going to pass? These are all options that, you know, seem reasonable. I think I would probably go for Sylvan here, because Ölle is going to look at 3 new cards next turn. You could also just consider leaving your Chaos Orb. I don't think I would go for the Modi, because, I mean, you've got the Mace for that. Exactly, going to go here for the Sylvan. Very solid flip, taking care of the Sylvan. Passing the turn. Another reason here to go for the Sylvan is the fact that, remember, Markus is playing with that one Mirror Universe that maybe he wants to use. So you don't want to see your opponent going too low on life. There's an Ancestral Recall. Okay, so that's probably the card he picked up with the Demonics. He's going to draw 3 more cards. Then he's going up to 6 cards in total in hand. And then I wonder if we're going to see another like Shivan or Trike or Modi. First a land drop, another Underground Sea. It's going to count the lands. That's usually a bad sign for the opponent. There's the attack first, so it's going to send it back here with the Mace. There seems to be, yeah, there's just a pass. So Ölle counted the cards but didn't do anything. There's a land from Markus, also a pass. There's another Bayou. And let's see what he can do. Putting that city there separate on the birds. So that could be a sign of something. He's going to tap 6, it seems. We're going to see another Shivan, another big flyer. Also, of course, plays with 3 Nicobolas. So has enough mana, I believe, to start casting, hard casting the Nicobolas. Gonna tap 5. Okay, there's a Concordant Crossroads. I didn't see that one coming. So just a Crossroads is 1 green. So then he's attacking again with the Modi. So of course sending back the Modi. And just passing the turn. Interesting. So is he preparing some kind of big play next turn? You know, and that's why he's playing the Crossroads now. Because he just didn't have enough mana to do both. There's a pass from Markus. Markus not really finding anything. 2 cards for Markus, passing the turn to Ölle. And like I said, I'm expecting a big turn here because he must have played that Concordant Crossroads for a reason. Gonna tap 4, 6, 8. Are we gonna see the big dragon? There he is, Nicobolas, again hitting the board here. So now we've seen a Bolas in both games, but it looks like Markus is going to counter it here. There's a counterspell, yeah, counterspell on the Bolas. There's a response counterspell here from Ölle. So Ölle played extra slow because he wanted to make sure that he had counter magic open to counter the counterspell. And here's the attack, Bolas and Modi incoming. Yeah, and this could be tough here for Markus. He's on 18. I guess you have to send back the Nicobolas, right? With your Mezaviv? Or not? What's your other option? I mean, your other option is sending the Modi back, taking 7, right? Go to 11 and lose the card in hand. But it doesn't seem to make sense, right? Unless, of course, I'm not thinking if that card in hand is a Psychic Purge. Remember, Psychic Purge deals 5. Then you could get Ölle on 6. But you would take 7 damage, though. What you could do, maybe Markus is considering that. Take damage from both creatures. Right? And then you have a Psychic Purge in hand. Look at that. Markus is taking the damage. Is that a Psychic Purge in hand? It is a Psychic Purge in hand. Oh, this is so cool. Ölle taking 5. Gonna go to 6. Markus on 6. Markus can now attack with the factory. Put Ölle on 4. So if there's a Psionic Blast from the top, he can actually win the second game. Is there a Psionic Blast from the top? That is the big question. And I'm hoping there is. I would love to see more of both of these decks. There's the attack. Ölle on 4. Are we going to see a Psionic Blast? Oh, the pass, though. That is not a good sign. He is on 6, though, so could use the Mace. Could maybe squeeze one more turn out of this. And one more turn means one more draw and potentially finding, one more, potentially finding that Psionic Blast that you need. And Ölle here playing a Shivan, going to turn it sideways, winning the game. Or are we going to see there's a mana drain in hand showing that he can counter away a potential Psionic Blast. So yeah, Ölle winning here. And Ölle, congratulations. Here we see the deck of Ölle. Great deck. Like I said in the introduction and the deck tech, I'm a big fan of these decks. Beautiful, man. Big creatures doing cool stuff. That's the type of magic I love. Talking about the type of magic I love, I will be back next time with more action from Arvika. So if you don't want to miss a thing, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. Okay, and thank you for doing that. And also, please take a moment to like, share, and comment on these videos. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. And if you're enjoying the content that I make, if you're enjoying the stuff I do with the Timmy Talks channel, please consider becoming a patron as well. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks to to find out how you can become a supporter of the show. It already starts for just $1 a month. And for that $1 a month, you get access to the Timmy Talks Discord. You can join in on all the online events that I organize. And if you become a patron at the $2 tier and up, you can get your name into the end scroll at the end of every single video. What end scroll? This end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober, putting in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. She rises early in the morning. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning. Way hey up she rises. Way hey up she rises. Way hey up she rises early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scout to the hose my son. Put him in the scout to the hose my son. Put him in the scout to the hose my son.
Igitus figitus sumba kazee.